So I'm going to sentence him to 80 years in the prison, give him credit for any time served. There is a $0 fine.
Tay-K has just learned his projected release date, and it's becoming clear he may never walk free. He's serving time for a double homicide, and the reality of his situation is heavy. If you check the Texas Department of Criminal Justice website, you'll see a release date listed as August 8, 2099. It's not a typo or a system error, it's real, officially recorded, and unlikely to change. That record belongs to Tamor Trayvon McIntyre, currently 25 years old. But this story goes far beyond the charges. It traces back to a childhood shaped by instability and survival, long before music ever entered the picture. Tamor McIntyre was born on June 16, 2000. During his early years, his father was incarcerated, and he and his older sister, Kayla Beverly, were placed in foster care. They moved through multiple homes and cities, even spending time in Las Vegas without any real sense of stability. When their father was released and regained custody, the family settled in Arlington, Texas. But instead of things improving, the environment remained difficult. Testimony later described a household marked by strict discipline, alleged abuse, and ongoing struggles with substance use and mental health. At 15, in early 2016, McIntyre was in a car in Denton, Texas, when an associate, Eric Santa Sage Johnson, fatally shot University of North Texas student Sarah Muchlechner after an altercation. This incident marked a turning point. Just 6 months later, at age 16, McIntyre became involved in a home invasion in Mansfield, Texas. The plan targeted a 17-year-old Zachary Belote, with accomplices luring him to open the door. During the incident, 21-year-old Ethan Walker was shot and killed. Multiple individuals involved later received lengthy prison sentences after cooperating with authorities. By the time people began discussing the case publicly, including on platforms like Vlad TV, the story had already become a complex and tragic chain of events, one shaped by environment, choices, and consequences that escalated quickly.
Tay-K is up on murder charges, and everyone seems to be turning against him. So like the female, that was one of his co-defendants.
She had just taken 25 years out of a possible 45-year capital murder sentence. That kind of deal doesn't come quiet. It comes with consequences. It means cooperation. It means testimony. It means getting on that stand and telling everything. And when someone who had already been on death row was asked how things were looking for Tay-K at that moment, there was no sugarcoating it. The answer was blunt. With witnesses like that testifying, he was going to be sunk. These weren't random voices. These were powerful witnesses, people directly tied to the case, people the jury would believe. And in a situation like that, every word matters. At that point, Tamor McIntyre still had options. He had lawyers. He had an ankle monitor. He had a legal process that, at least on paper, could still play out in his favor. But instead of waiting, instead of trusting the system or even trying to fight within it, he made a decision that would define everything that came next. On March 27, 2017, he cut off his ankle monitor and ran. He didn't disappear quietly either. He didn't go underground or try to stay hidden. Instead, he went to social media and announced it to the world. He posted about escaping house arrest like it was a victory, like it was something to celebrate. But this wasn't a game. This wasn't a movie. This was a 16-year-old already facing a capital murder charge, now turning himself into a fugitive in real time. It raises a question. Was this recklessness, or was it survival mode? Was it a kid who didn't understand the consequences, or someone who understood them perfectly and just didn't care anymore? Either way, the decision changed everything. Because once he ran, there was no going back. The system that might have judged him became a system chasing him. And what followed wasn't just bad, it was catastrophic. After cutting off the ankle monitor, Tay-K didn't lay low. He didn't hide out and wait for things to cool down. Instead, he moved like he was untouchable. Somewhere between fleeing and getting caught, he made his way across Texas, leaving behind a trail that would only make his situation worse. On April 23, 2017, in San Antonio, he and another individual attempted to rob 23-year-old photographer Mark Anthony Saldivar in a Chick-fil-A parking lot. Surveillance cameras captured everything. This wasn't speculation. This was recorded reality. Saldivar fought back. He jumped onto the hood of their SUV, refusing to let them take his equipment. In that moment, everything escalated. A shot was fired. Mark Anthony Saldivar died that day. He wasn't part of any criminal world. He wasn't involved in any feud. He was a young creative professional trying to build a life through his work. And in a matter of seconds, it was over camera equipment that likely wasn't even worth that much. It was, by every definition, senseless. But it didn't stop there. As a fugitive, Tay-K continued moving, allegedly committing another robbery, this time involving a 65-year-old man in a park, leaving him unconscious. The pattern was clear: impulsive decisions, escalating consequences, and a growing list of victims. And yet, in the middle of all of this, something else was happening. He was recording music. The Race wasn't just a song. It was a real-time reflection of a situation. It talked about running, about escaping, about refusing to be caught. And when it dropped on June 30th, 2017, the timing was almost unbelievable, because on that exact same day, U.S. Marshals arrested him in New Jersey. The song and the arrest happened simultaneously. The internet exploded. The track went viral. People shared it, quoted it, celebrated it. But behind the energy, behind the hype, was a reality that couldn't be ignored. This wasn't just music. This was evidence. The Race turned Tay-K into a viral figure overnight. The song climbed charts, gained millions of streams, and received cosigns from major artists. It became a cultural moment. But while the internet celebrated, the legal system was preparing. In July 2019, his trial began. He pleaded guilty to robbery charges but fought the murder charge, arguing he wasn't the one who pulled the trigger. However, Texas law doesn't always separate responsibility that way. Under the law of parties, being involved in the crime can make you just as accountable as the person who committed the act. The jury found him guilty. Then came sentencing, and one of the most ironic moments in the entire case. Prosecutors played The Race in court. The same song that made him famous was now being used to demonstrate lack of remorse and evidence of fleeing justice. What once built his identity was now helping define his punishment. He was sentenced to 55 years. But the story didn't end there. Another trial awaited him, this time for the San Antonio case. Years later, in 2025, that trial finally began. The evidence was overwhelming. Surveillance footage, witness testimony, and even statements from people close to him. He was convicted again. This time, the sentence was 80 years. The sentences were set to run concurrently, meaning the longer one would define his time. Still, the outcome was clear. Decades behind bars. The viral moment had passed. The movement faded. What remained was the reality of the decisions made and their consequences. By 2026, the numbers told the full story. Tamor McIntyre's projected release date is August 8, 2099. That's decades away, so far that it almost feels unreal. As of now, he has tens of thousands of days left to serve. Even parole, theoretically possible around 2049, is far from guaranteed. With multiple violent convictions, the chances of early release are slim. Each denial could push the next review years further. This isn't just about time, it's about what that time represents. He entered the system as a teenager. That means his entire 20s, 30s, and 40s will likely be spent behind prison walls. Milestones most people experience: relationships, family, personal growth, and freedom are replaced with confinement, routine, and isolation. Reports from inside suggest a difficult experience. Time in solitary confinement, behavioral issues, and mental health struggles. Long-term incarceration doesn't just punish, it reshapes a person's entire reality. And then there's the human side. Family connections strained, no stable relationships. The one person closest to him during that time eventually testified against him. It's a life defined not just by one decision, but by a chain of them, each one narrowing the path forward. The internet remembers The Race as a moment, a viral hit, a cultural flashpoint. But behind that moment is a much longer story, one that stretches nearly a lifetime. And that story isn't about running anymore. It's about time.